Glad to know you stay with us, and definitely we are tracking the legal implication of the ongoing war, or some would say it's a conflict. Either way, my guest joins us for more on this, Dr. Aderemi, Tolulope Aderemi, partner, Perchstone and Graeys LP. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Perchstone, for having me. And good morning or good afternoon, Nigerians.
All right, I would have started by asking you what your reading of this conflict is, but I think we need to just dive right into, the legal implication, really. So let's begin with that.
So thank you. I think the legal implications were better understood if we understand.
Okay, so let's start from there then.
So if we start from what's really causing the war.
Okay.
So once you understand what's causing the war, they will know why there are issues and what are legal implications.
So let's begin there then.
So thank you, Perpetua. Now, what is causing the war, which is in relation to what we're discussing, is about understanding the geographical structure of the entire area, whether it is around the Gulf of Oman or the Persian Gulf. Now, what is the Gulf of Oman and all of this drama? Most of our crude oil comes from the Persian Gulf. Kuwait, Iran, it also borders UAE, Iraq. Now, when they come out from there, they go through the Gulf of Oman. Now, going through the Gulf of Oman, you have to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the Strait of Hormuz is narrow but very deep. So the volume of crude oil, LPG, and weight, and I'll talk about that later, that is transported through there is possibly the only place where you can transport it through because of the size and the depth of the Strait of Hormuz. And most of it, they go to India, Singapore, China, Japan. Now, these are the people that use most of this. And what I'm talking about is about 20% of global crude oil that goes into there. So why is it a problem? The Strait of Hormuz borders Iran and Oman. So your ship or vessel can't pass through it without ensuring that there's peace in Iran or there's peace in Oman. And that's why I worry why any sane human being will allow Iran, Oman, or any of the countries within the Middle East to go into a crisis. Because any issue around that place, the strait will be shut down. Now, as of this morning, Iran has said they've not shut down the Strait of Hormuz, but any vessel that passes through it is going to be shut down by Iran. I just thought that background was important. Now, why is it an issue? The vessels we're talking about, so today, the vessels have all reduced, waiting on the Persian Gulf, and the ones coming from Gulf of Oman also waiting there. So they really can pass through the Strait of Hormuz. You're possible to ask me, Tolu, are there not other routes? Yes, there are. So the Arabian Peninsula has the east-west gas pipeline, but it's a very narrow one. Takes almost about 5 million barrels of crude per day, compared to 20% of global consumption that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. So you have vessels waiting here, you have vessels waiting here. They cannot move. What happens to the suppliers? What happens to the vessel owners? What happens to the charterers? Now, Africa is also around that area. So you have African continent, you have the Arabian Peninsula, and then you have the Persian Gulf. You can also cross through to the African continent through the Red Ocean. So what are the vessels doing? What options do they have? Is either they stay where they are or they run through the Arabian Peninsula, which is so narrow.
Okay, let's bring it down now because we're pressed for time. We need to look at the legal implications.
So I'm going
let's do that now.
All right.
Okay.
So the legal implications now is that the vessels must find alternative routes. Otherwise, the contracts have to be terminated with consequences. And so we're left with just two possibilities under frustration. Whether it is impossible to perform the contract or it is impracticable to perform the contract. Iran was smart this morning to say, look, we have not shut down the strait. And so you can't argue that it is impossible to perform the contract. You can still sail through, but they will shut you down. Now,
that's wicked.
Oh, yes. But is it impracticable? It's impracticable because there's still another route through the Red Ocean or the Indian Ocean, round all the way through Africa. That's a deeply longer route. And let me give you an example. When we had the war, the coup in Niger Republic, that Sunday morning, I was on a flight to London. We were about taxiing when we stopped, and they said there was coup in Niger. If you look at the map, Niger Republic is next to Nigeria. So when you are flying out of Nigeria, the first country you must get into is Niger Republic. But we couldn't go because the airspace was shut down. And so after about 3 hours, because you had to debate, what is the consequences of it? You had about 132 passengers who you either have to deboard or you fill up the aviation fuel in your plane for a longer journey. They had no choice but to fly us, incur more cost, because we are not, London is 6 hours. We drove free for 13 hours. So the vessels on the Persian Gulf now will now have to travel through the Red Ocean across Africa to go to where they want to get to. That's a deeply longer journey. And so what that means is very quickly, UK, the insurance company, they've terminated all the war risk insurance because Iran says, I've not shut down the strait, but any vessel that goes there will be shut down. That's high risk, but it's a risk that is foreseeable. And so no insurance company in its right senses would allow that to, so they've withdrawn.
So
come and renegotiate it.
Exactly. Okay.
So what you have to do now is you have to go and renegotiate the terms.
What's your
of
expert
insurance.
advice? We'll close on that. Your expert advice for the people who are involved in all of this.
So two things. One, they should either reconsider renegotiating the insurance terms of their contract or look at the economic consequences of having to travel a further. And sometimes it's not too bad. It's just that it might cost more. And that cost, you won't really bear it. You transfer it to the consumer. That's what's going to happen in China. That's what's going to happen in Japan because the vessels, and it's just not crude oil, even wheat, LPG, things coming from the Persian Gulf, going to Japan, going to China, they have to now increase the cost because somebody must bear the cost of that longer journey. That's basically where we are.
All right. I think that's a good place to end this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have been speaking with Dr. Tolulope Aderemi, partner, Perchstone and Graeys LP. Thank you for your time on the show today.
Thank you, Perpetua, for having me.